This week, we're going to read about a meeting between Yehuda and Yosef, where Yehuda approaches Yosef to plead for his brother Binyamin, to ask that he be released from the prison that he was about to be placed in. And all the Chazal ask, the Balei Musar, it seems strange that up until that point, Yehuda was talking through a translator to Yosef. He didn't think that Yosef spoke Lashon HaKodesh, so what gave Yehuda the impetus to walk up to Yosef and to start talking and engaging with him in his language, which he knew at that point that Yosef did not understand? And the Balei Musar answer that Dvarim hayotzim min halev nichnasim halev. That passion does not need a translation. Words from the heart enter into a heart. And there, a translator is not needed. Part of what makes Rabbi Penner an outstanding speaker and somebody who has given inspiration to many, many people is because he is that. He is the Dvarim hayotzim min halev. He is somebody who speaks passionately about what he believes in, enabling his words to enter into other hearts. Rabbi Penner was the Rav for many years in Holliswood. He's currently the Dean in REITs, which is the learning component in Yeshiva University. And it gives me a great privilege and pleasure to introduce this morning Rabbi Penner. We'll speak on making Tefillah meaningful.
Thanks. Good morning, everyone. Wow, wonderful, wonderful crowd. We should go off to all the Talmidim and all the dads who are here today to talk about Tefillah. I thank you for welcoming me into your base medrash, and I always start and end with an invitation to come and join us in our base medrash in Yeshiva. Those of you who didn't go to Yeshiva, but especially those of you who did, to see the energy, the power of what the base medrash looks like today, with some 1,000 boys sitting for morning seder every single morning, and tefillah that is, yes, very, very meaningful. And it is difficult. It is difficult to get to meaningful tefillah. The last time I like to speak is right after we daven, because then it is a long time till mincha to forget everything. But I guess that's the way it works out the best this morning, is to speak about tefillah right after tefillah. Tefillah on both sides hard, and I don't mean to suggest by getting up here that I have the answers. But it is something that I've spent a lot of time, it is something that I've spent a lot of time thinking about, if only because we spend so much time davening anyway. I'm always a big believer that at the time, let's say, of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, when everybody's trying to decide, what am I going to do this year? What am I going to put on my list? What's something I'm going to add? Everybody's thinking of some new chumrah they can take on, some new something. I prefer to think of it this way. We spend an enormous amount of time in shul. Wouldn't it be worthwhile to try to make it more meaningful? We're there. Parents, the young men who are in the room, we're there anyway. We're doing it anyway. There's only so much else we could do during that time to distract ourselves. What if the time that we spent in shul was a little more meaningful? What if the time we spent during Shemona Esrei was a little more meaningful? Source number one has a fascinating comment. It just sounds bizarre. from Rabbi Yehuda Halevi, who wrote the Sefer HaKuzari. Sefer HaKuzari is a story in which a rabbi tries to explain to a king who converts to Judaism what the majesty is of Judaism. And he describes tefillah in a way that would make many people in the room here laugh. It sounds like he's fooling the king. B'derech zu, source number 1, tihiyeh shas hatefillah lechosid ki garin hazman biryo. The chassid here is not a chusid, it's a little early for chassidus, but for someone who's taking their Judaism very seriously. Prayer is the most important and most meaningful and the best time of the day. Bishar hasha'os tiena lo kidrochen hamolichos el hasha'azu. You believe it? And the rest of the day is just how many hours do I have now till mincha? Very hard to relate to that. If anybody's been away for Yom Tov, any of the fathers remember Grossinger's Olav Shalom. So this is a feeling that we can explain when it comes to food. Right? If everybody remembers at Grossinger's, as soon as you finished breakfast, it was just how many hours till lunch? And people would stand up outside. They just left the dining room at like 11 o'clock. And 11:30 they'd be on, waiting online for 12 o'clock with the doors open. That's the way we're supposed to feel about tefillah. Oh boy, I could really use a mincha. I'm starving for a myra. And what a waste to daven mincha myra. That's like brunch. I always hated brunch, because then you lost breakfast and lunch, you don't get both. Brunch, what a waste. Who would put lunch and dinner together in a hotel? But we never feel that way about tefillah. Ukishem shahayu lo shalosh itos hatefillah shebakol yom pri yomo v'leilo. And just like tefillah, 3 times a day is just, I can't wait anymore. I gotta get there. Kachi yelo yom haShabbos the pri Hashem. Davening is like Shabbos. Oh, I made it. It's been too long since the last one. I'm back in davening. I'm relaxed. It's all wonderful. It's a dream. What does this mean? What is the Sefer HaKuzari talking about? It's very difficult for us to relate. And if it was difficult 10 years ago, today with cell phones, it's even more difficult to understand that there could be something called getting away. A state, a relaxation of being away and being in the right place. But I want to try to describe to you a little bit about the experience of tefillah, because we usually think of tefillah as a mitzvah. But I think, and it's difficult to grasp this at first, and it's a little difficult when we're younger to understand the power of tefillah, but to try to understand how to make the time that we're already davening anyway an experience, so that when I leave the room, I'm a little different than when I came in. That's my goal. When I leave the room, I'm a little bit different than when I came in. Forget about the words. Forget about shuffling and doing this and the whole. Just that somehow, after 45 minutes, or after 3 minutes of a Shemona Esrei in particular, I should just be a little different. If we accomplish that, we've accomplished a tremendous thing. So I'd like to suggest to you this morning ways of making the 3 parts of Shemona Esrei, listen closely, the 3 parts of Shemona Esrei each meaningful. We know that Shemona Esrei is divided into 3 different sections. Right? What's the first? We praise. Right? A little strange, because God really shouldn't need our praise. But we start with 3 brachos where we tell the Ribono Shel Olam how wonderful He is, and we remind ourselves how wonderful He is. Then we have a middle section where we ask the Reconnecting for a lot of things, honestly, mostly things that I really don't want that much. Certainly not the list I would have drawn up myself, but we ask Him for a lot of things. And then we say thank you, which is also strange, because have you ever wondered what we're saying thank you for if we just asked for it? Are we so confident that we're going to get it? Let's be honest, a lot of the stuff in there we've been asking for 2,000 years. So it's a little strange to say this time, oh, thank you, I assumed I was going to get this before Mincha. Let's look at these three parts and try to get a little, let's try to understand, let's try to get something out of praising God, of asking Him for things, and thanking Him at the end. Let's start with number one. I want to share with you a wild idea that I came across in my readings about Tefillah, about how to try to get away when we're davening. You know, one of the most amazing things to me is how fast people go in their silent Shemona Esrei. How fast they go when they know they're going to have to be there for Chazaras HaShatz anyway. I'm always shocked. Are people that excited about Chazaras HaShatz that they need to be done? They got to be finished. They can't do anything else during Chazaras HaShatz. I hope that someone here is saying you can't take out your phones, you can't do whatever. So you're stuck anyway. Why is it that we're in such a rush? I made a policy in my shul a long time ago that don't wait for me. Because I really only get a few minutes a day alone away. I'm really not interested, with all due respect to Chazaras HaShatz, I'm not interested in hurrying up so I can get done with this. What is this? Look at source number 2. It's from a sefer, a fascinating sefer called Ha'aras HaTefillah. Ha'aras HaTefillah is one of many, many books that tries to explain what every word of Tefillah is about. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not up to the point where I'm trying to figure out what every word of Tefillah is about. I'm just reading the introductions to these books. Because I'm trying to get something out of the whole experience. I'll get to someday, please God, I'll get to what every single word means and where it comes from. If you read sometimes the introductions to books on Tefillah, you'll get amazing things. Rabbi Weissblum says an amazing thing in this. He says, Mi shenasa pa'am v'matos zocher. If you've ever been in an airplane, this is a strange place to go here. Davening, standing before God, introducing myself to God, the first 3 brachos should be like flying in an airplane. At the beginning, when you start to go, right? You whoosh, take off a little bit. You're still like, pretty much holding in the ground. Then you feel that whoosh, right? And you're moving up. כשמסתכלים מבעד לחלון אל עבר הארץ, רואים איך הבתים הולכים ומתגמדים. The houses get small, right? Everybody get pictures? The house is getting small. ככל שהמטוס מגביה, מתקטנים הבתים יותר ויותר, עד שנראים כקוביות. They look like little dice, they look like little boxes. עוברים על פני ארצות והכל כל כך קטן, everything gets so small. כל זמן שהוא טס מתחת לעננים, הכל כל כך קודם. But you're still beneath the cloud. Now I add to this word. Have you ever taken off during a storm? It's one of those really good storms. And you're like, I don't want to say this out loud, but I wonder if we should really be taking off. Not really sure. Does the pilot know what he's doing? And then you say, well, it's all autopilot today. What's the big deal? And you're taking off. It's a really bad storm. And then you go into the clouds. And the clouds are really thick. And again, you start to ask yourself, does the pilot need to see? I can't see anything. Is this safe? And then there's that moment when you break through the clouds and you realize it's always sunny up there. Ever have that? You break through and you realize that as bad as everything is down here, as stormy as it might be, once you get up above the clouds, the sun's out, and you're actually looking down now on the clouds. Try that when you start davening. Davening should be a time when we get away. The world is a storm. There's so many things going on. There's so many reasons why we can't concentrate. And there's so much going on. There are problems that 16-year-olds have. There are problems that 60-year-olds have. Everybody's got stuff. The first thing to do in Tefillah is to say, I'm going to get away for a couple of minutes. And you know where I'm going to be? I'm going to be in a place where God is. When's the last time that God was there when you died? Saying God is not like a word we try. That makes us very uncomfortable. We like to say Hashem. I don't like to say Hashem because you don't shudder the same way when you say Hashem as you say God. You can't daven without God in the picture. The first three brachos where we reintroduce ourselves to the Ribono Shel Olam is about trying to actually connect with Him in some way, to feel like I'm not here for a few minutes. And I'll tell you a secret, it's really nice. It's really a beautiful thing. And it's really an uplifting thing. And then we start to ask. Now you see, the problem with asking, the problem with the brachos that we say, right, 12 brachos, 13 brachos that we say in the middle, is that, to be honest, these aren't the things that we would want to ask for. Right, let's face it. You don't have to raise your hand. How many of the 12 brachos, you can kind of think of the themes in your head, how many of the 12 brachos are things that you would actually ask for if you had open mic time with God? And by the way, you do every day. Because when you're up there and you're talking to Him, and it's just you and Him, you can ask Him for anything that you want. I remember some of the most powerful Shemona Esreis I ever davened were with young teens in NCSY who had never stepped foot in a shul. And I remember standing around them, what are you going to do for davening? They had never stepped foot in a shul before. And we all got around in a circle. And I said, okay, when I count to 3, I want everybody to take 3 steps forward and ask God for anything you want. And then when you're done, I want you to take 3 steps back out of His office. It was some of the most powerful tefillahs I ever done. You literally have open mic with God. You can ask Him in Shema Kolein at the end of davening. You can ask Him whatever you want. You ever try that? Everybody's out there looking for spirituality. I want something to be meaningful. Talk to God. Your own words. But the problem is that in addition to anything that we might add, we're stuck with these brachos. Okay? Which of the brachos are the ones that are meaningful to us? As a high schooler? I don't know. Which brachos are meaningful? Maybe on the day of a test, if you think about it, atahone, what are you thinking about? Parnasser? Come on. You're 16. It'll be okay. Parents. Okay, I understand. I once heard someone say that it's very difficult to daven before you have a mortgage. Really? I sometimes see 17-year-old, 18-year-olds, I see a kid come back from Shana Aleph, and they're like, the whole thing's like, what? And I'm like, what? What are you asking Him for? What do you not have that you're asking Him for? Become 35, become 40, and then you'll start asking Him for things. You ask for health, you ask for wealth. So how many of those things are things we would really ask for? If it was up to me, I have to admit, I'd probably ask for health and wealth and maybe a general bracha like help me spiritually, and then maybe one bracha for Mashiach. Maybe. I hate to call it, you'll excuse me, a Hail Mary, but sort of a, okay, what the heck, let's hope that Mashiach comes. It turns out half the brachos are about national redemption. Come on, half the brachos? Really? At the 620 million? Half the brachos about national redemption? I want a cup of coffee, I want there to be no traffic, I want to get to work. Really? National redemption? Payback of the righteous? Restoration of judges? What restoration of judges? What is that? So I'd like to suggest 2 things. We'll skip for now source number 3. Source number 3 is just a beautiful piece of the Chavetz Chaim, where he asks us just to know what bracha we're in. This is the kavanah, by the way, that I go for. Forget about the individual words. Art Scroll, Koren have done us a favor. They put on the top of the bracha what the bracha is about. If I even know what bracha I'm in, it's a success. Seriously. How many times we have no idea where we are? I just want to know, and that's what the Chafetz Chaim says, take a second before each bracha and just know, now I'm going to pray for this. That's all. But what do I do when the brachos don't speak to me? That's one of the things that makes tefillah so hard. If tefillah was just in English about the stuff that I wanted, it would be a lot easier to pray. There's a famous idea of Rav Hirsch, where Rav Hirsch says that the word tefillah, lehit palel, I don't mean to make you guys all jittery, but remember Hebrew grammar, we're going to stop this in just a minute, but hit palel means to palel myself. Right? Lehit labesh is to dress myself. Lehit palel is to palel myself. What do I do when I palel myself? Palel means to judge. How and why am I supposed to be judging myself? So I used to think that this meant that I'm supposed to think with every single bracha if I'm worthy for that thing. Right? In Shema Kolein, I want to go for it. God, let me win $10 million. Well, I haven't been that good. Let me win $1 million. Let me win $100,000. I think that kind of day I've had. The Sefer HaYikarim, Rabbi Yosef Albo, says that's a very dangerous place to go. Because you know what it implies? It implies that everything that I have already, I must have earned. And that's pretty egotistical. Because the reality is that most of the stuff that I need to be happy, I already have. I always used to say to my shul before Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, remember that most of the things that we're davening for is that we should hold on to the things that we have and the people that we have in our lives. We don't really need today that many more things to be happy. We just hope everything can stay the same. So if we are judging ourselves and we're saying, well, I'm going to ask for $100, but I'm not going to ask. We're supposed to believe that Hashem is our Father and He gives us stuff out of chesed, and we haven't earned everything that we have, and judging myself with that doesn't make any sense. So what does it mean to judge myself when I'm down? So I'd like to suggest the following. I read through the brachos, and I'm 15 years old, and I'm like, rabbis, you have no idea what my life is about. You have no idea what's important to me. By the way, it doesn't get different in your 40s. You have no idea what it is that I need. Come on. I would suggest the following. I have priorities, and the Anshe Knesset HaGedolah who wrote the Shemona Esrei had priorities. And I ask you a simple question this morning. Who's right and who's wrong? If the things in the Shemona Esrei are not what I would have wanted, I have to ask myself, should I want those things? Maybe my priorities are off. Maybe the Shemona Esrei is telling me what I should want to ask for. And maybe, listen closely, the less the Shemona Esrei speaks to me, the more I need it. If I ever wake up in the morning and say, boy, could I really use national redemption today? Then maybe I don't need a Shemona Esrei so much that day. One of the purposes of Shemona Esrei, and the reason why we do it again and again and again, it takes us about 3 hours to forget what's important. That's being covered. Probably takes us 30 minutes, but we have to do something else during the day. If the davening doesn't speak to me, I have to ask myself, why? Maybe I should care more about these things. Maybe I should think more about these things. Why is the first bracha a bracha for intelligence? Is intelligence that important? Why don't I start off by asking for parnasa? Why do I start off by asking God for slicha? If the brachas don't appear the way I wish they appeared, then maybe that's sending me a powerful message. On the days that I least want to daven Shemona Esrei, I use Shemona Esrei to judge myself. and to ask myself if my priorities are in order. Rav Kook adds a beautiful piece to this idea. This beautiful piece at the beginning of Olat Riyah, Rav Kook's writings on Tefillah, where Rav Kook says as follows. This is really tough Hebrew, but we're going to try this together. Source number 4. Rav Kook says, "HaTefillah hamatmedet shel haneshama," the constant tefillah of the neshama. Rav Kook says an amazing thing. Our neshama is always talking to God. Mitametzet hi tamid latzeit min hahelem el hagaloy, and it's trying to get out. Litpashet al kol kochot hachayim shel kol haruach banefesh. Our souls are always trying to talk to God. Deep down in every one of us is something more powerful than what happens to us day to day. It's a very, very famous Rambam. The Rambam talks about the issue of giving a get. The famous Rambam, we're going to talk about giving a get. The Rambam talks about a man who doesn't want it. Technically, a man has to want to give a divorce to his wife. What if he doesn't want to and he really should? So we're allowed to, in mafia style, not allowed in the United States here, now, in the 5 towns, but in theory, one is allowed to beat him up until he says, "Oh, I forgot I want to divorce my wife. I forgot. I really do." Right? That's a very, very mafia thing to do. We're going to make you an offer you can't refuse. I forgot that I wanted to give you all of my money. Oh, okay. So the Rambam says, how is this possible if the Torah tells us that one has to give a get willingly? So how could it be that you can beat the guy up and he says, "Oh yeah, I wanted to give the get"? So the Rambam says an amazing thing. Deep down, we're all better than we appear. There's something about us deep down that's better than what happens to us day to day. We get lost, we make mistakes, we forget, we get caught up in bad things. But deep down, when you beat the guy up, says the Rambam, you're getting to his real self. Rav Kook says that our real self is always talking to God. And that the times when we daven are the times when we get to hear what we really want. Paragraph number 3. Hatfilah mevakeshet mehaneshama et tafkidah. When we mouth the words of tefillah, says Rav Kook, it's a beautiful idea, we're saying what we really do want inside. On the one hand, if the tefillah doesn't speak to us, we should say maybe it should. If tefillah is boring, then maybe it's somewhat about me, not just tefillah. Maybe I have to ask myself, why aren't these the things I care about? But Rav Kook says that deep down, it is what you care about. Deep down, when you daven is the only time you get to listen to yourself. That is soul talking. That's just soul talking. A very powerful way. So we've done the first 2 sections. Okay, we've done the first section. We said, how am I supposed to make it meaningful that I'm introducing myself to God? The answer is try it. Try to be away and just talk. Try to find Him. And try to be there and try to be able to just feel like you're talking to Him for a few minutes. Make it a conversation. Enough with all the shaking and the... You know, I have to say, some of the best Shemona Esreis that I ever davened were on the Garden State Parkway. When I was younger, I used to do NCSY, so we used to do these after-school clubs in public schools. So I inevitably would find myself on the Garden State Parkway around Mincha time. So, you know, you always have that. You ever been driving and it's like close to Mincha and you got this whole thing going on. Should I stop? Should I just stay in my car? Can I daven while I'm driving? I'll do it out loud, so I'll have a lot of kavanah even though I'm driving. It'll be good. And then you decide, okay, that's not nice. I'm going to get out. I'm going to get out of my car. And then you have the next problem. What's the next problem? Everybody's going to think Jews are crazy, right? I'm going to stand next to the car and I'm going to talk to myself. It's probably better to not daven at all than to make a Tefillah Hashem. The rabbi said Tefillah Hashem is such a bad thing. We've all done this. And then you're like sort of in the trees, and you're like in the side of the car, and you wish you had an SUV so it was higher, and you could hide behind it, and you play all these games. So what did I used to do? So, young men, it used to be something, you may have seen it in comic books or in history books, called a phone booth. It's a little thing called a phone booth. It's actually a glass thing, and inside of it was a phone, and the phone stayed there. Okay? The phone stayed there. Okay, and I realized in my travels up and down the Garden State Parkway that the best place to talk to myself, right, and not have people think I was crazy, was in a phone booth, because that's what everybody does, right? So I was stuck enough times that this was my minute. I would stop at a gas station that had a phone booth. I would open the door, I'd take 3 steps forward, I'd put in a coin, and I would talk the whole time. And when I was done, I'd put down the phone and I'd take 3 steps back. And it was amazing because I no longer felt uncomfortable. And I also felt like I was actually talking to God. Now, I don't recommend this. I'm not saying that everybody should take out their cell phone during davening, but you know what? The more you make it real, the more meaningful it can be to just talk to God. And that's, again, the purpose of the first brachos is just to reintroduce myself, to remember that I'm standing before God, and that's an amazing place to be. And I'm not so interested in jumping back into the crazy world. The second section, where I ask for things, can be a place where, even if I don't know every single word and every single thing, at least I'm thinking, why am I asking for this? If it's not what I want, then maybe that's telling me something. And maybe there's a part of me that deep down really does want this. And then I get to the last section. So let's focus for a bit on the last section. The last section is Shema Esrei, the thank you part. So first of all, it's very interesting. It's not really just the thank you part. Have you ever asked that question? Kids ask your fathers, put all fathers in trouble now. It doesn't seem, we know we're all told you're not supposed to ask for things in the first 3 brachos and the last 3 brachos, except that 2 of the last 3 brachos are requests. It's just really modin, that's not a request. Thank you. Well, let's take a look. Ritzei, let's look at source number 5. Ritzei Hashem Elokeinu ba'amcha Yisrael u'tefillah. We say to God, Ritzei, accept our tefillos. Rabbi Soloveitchik points out that whenever the word Ritzei is used, it means to accept our tefillah as a korban. The word Ritzei is always about a korban. You know that the Gemara tells us that today our tefillos are in place of korbanos. Right? Everybody's heard that? Right? You used to bring the korbanos from the Beis Hamikdash, and now they bring, now we just daven. Did you ever think about what a good deal we got? You ever think about how strange that is? What does it mean when I bring a korban? I'm a farmer up in the Galil. So I said to my boss, you know, I really want to bring a korban to God, so I'm going to need to take off the next 2 weeks. And I take off 2 weeks from work, and I lose all that wealth. And I take a chunk of money, and I go, and I bring my animal, I bring my sheep, and I go give it as a korban to Hashem. That's what it used to mean to give a korban. What do I do now? I take out 2 minutes, and instead of giving something to Hashem, what do? I ask Him for things. This is great. Who thought of this? I used to have to serve God by giving Him things. Now I get to serve. Do you ever realize? We say, I'm davening 3 times a day. Davening 3 times a day is 3 times a day to ask Him for everything that I need. They did really well. Whoever thought of this trade? So look at a beautiful Maharal in source number 6. Says the Maharal, you might want to know, you might be concerned, if God doesn't need our sacrifices, Maral, that's a basic question, good for Parshas Vayikra. Okay, forget about the fact that we traded Karbanos for Tefillah. Let's go back, says the Maharal. What? Bring an animal, you give the animal to God. What's God give my animal? It's crazy. Ein zeh she'elah, says the Maharal. This is not even a question. Ki av she'ein davar zeh l'toel Hashem yisparach, because even though God doesn't need our animals, mikol makom ha'adam moser atzmo el Hashem yisparach. But when I bring a sacrifice, I'm giving myself to God. Listen closely to the way he explains this. Va'af im ein moser nafsho elav, even though I don't kill myself, I kill the animal. It's also a good deal. Rak mamon shelo, I'm just giving up my money. Mikol makom gam zeh nikra shemoser atzmo el Hashem, that's also called giving of myself to God, because it's a lot harder to give my money sometimes than myself. Do you know why we had to once bring Karbanos? So once we understand this, we'll understand how Tefillah is the same. Why did we once have to bring Karbanos? Because God says to me, Penner, you think you have a sheep? Wrong. Whose sheep is it? It's mine. And guess what? I'd like it back tomorrow. And I say, okay, it's yours. V'nikra zeh avoda, that's why it's called avoda, ki ha'eved kanui l'rabo v'hu u'mamon shelo. An eved has no property of his own. Anything that an eved owns, the master owns. That's why bringing Karbanos is called avoda, because it's a way of showing that I don't have anything. Whatever God says, I'd like it back now, please, I say, sure, I give it. That's the power of Karbanos. Ulakach kasher maybe korban elav moreshu shelo. I'm just showing that everything I have is God's. Kamo ha'eved shu kanui l'rabo. Ve'ein lacha avoda yosem, he said. There's no way of showing that I'm an eved more than this. Uma shenikra ha'tefillah avoda. And why is tefillah called avoda? Shekol inyan ha'tefillah shehu mitpalel l'Hashem yisparach. Why do I dive into God? Because I need Him for everything. Says the Maharal, it doesn't matter whether I'm giving something back to God, listen closely, or I'm asking something from God, the message is the same. Everything is from Him. That's why when I say modim, I don't do what I call an orchestrated ballet move when I bow. Right? At the beginning is Shemona Esrei, you got the knees thing going, you got the thing, I feel like I was my personal trainer, you get that, get the head first, and then you come up. You do it all you want to do. What do we do for modim? Boom, you go down. You know what the Maharal says? When you go down for modim, it's as if you're falling on the ground. Why would I fall on the ground at the end of modim? Sorry, at the end of Shemona Esrei. Because I realize that I need Him for everything. I just asked Him for everything I need in my life. And then I say, oh my God, I have nothing. I need You for everything. When we say that tefillah is like a korban, it means that just like the idea of a korban is to realize that everything I have comes from Hashem, the experience of tefillah, by the end of Shemona Esrei, I'm supposed to feel like I need Him for everything. Do you know that that's why we don't say such a long Shemona Esrei on Shabbos? It's not that it's Shabbos, so we give you a break. Why don't we ask for all this stuff on Shabbos? Chazal tell us it'd be depressing. I need this, and I need some of that, and I need this. Of course, we do need those things on Shabbos. But they gave us a pass in asking for them because the experience of tefillah is to feel like I need so many things. That's why, by the way, if you accidentally, not that this ever happened to you, but it happened to me one time, if you accidentally start saying Ata Chonein on Shabbos, you're supposed to finish the bracha. Does that ever happen? Okay, come on. When is it, guys, that we realize that we're saying it's Kol Shemona Esrei? Slap up. That's what should be. Guys, you're in a suit, you pretend that you're fixing the thing. It never happened to me, but I see other people. That's what they do. You do need it. The rabbis gave you a pass. You don't want to take the pass. Don't take the pass. You have to finish the bracha you started and go back to the regular Shabbos recitation. But the rabbi said it would be depressing. Because you're listing everything that you need. I need you, God. 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 Everything. And that's what modim is about. I'm going to tell you a secret. Modim does not mean thank you. And if it did, then it wouldn't make any sense. Because what does the bracha say? Modim anachnu lo sho atahu Hashem Elokeinu. Thank you that you're God. Thank you that you're God. That's the best the rabbis can come up with grammar. That's the way we would write our Hebrew. Thank you that you're God. Let me ask you a question. And this is nothing against Israelis. How do you say thank you in Hebrew? So the secret is there is no way to say thank you in Hebrew. Which, there's no way in Hebrew, in proper Hebrew, there is no way to say thank you. I know you say, come on, Rabbi. It's one of the few words I know is todah. Todah does not mean thank you. When I am, Maseches Bava Metzia, modeh b'miktsas, I admit to half. I'm not thanking you for half. When I say vidui, when I confess the same language, I'm not thanking you for the averas that I did. What does modeh, what does todah mean? I admit. There is no word in Hebrew for thank you. Do you know what's the hard thing? Not to say thank you, but to admit that you needed somebody else or you needed God. That's what's hard. I'm a big shot. I didn't really need you to open the door for me. I didn't need that favor from you. I could have figured it out myself. You know what's hard? To admit that we have needs and that somebody helped us. Once we feel that way, of course we're going to say thank you. What's the other way we say thank you? When you want to thank Mrs. So-and-so for helping set up the Kiddush. We want to wish Hakaras Hatov. What does Hakaras Hatov mean? I recognize the good, not what I thank. You know what modim means when we say at the end of every Shemona Esrei? Modim means I just asked you for everything. I now admit that I need you. I admit that I can't do it myself. That's part of the experience of Tefillah. And that's why we fall during modim in an awkward manner, because we say, I have nothing. That's what the third part of Shemona Esrei is about. The first is trying to have an experience, trying to say, hello, God, I know you're there somewhere. And I'm going to pull away for a few minutes from my phone and from the world, and I'm not going to rush to get back. Because it's much sunnier up there than it is down here. And then I'm going to ask you for a whole lot of things, and even if I don't know exactly, even if that's not exactly what I wanted, I'm going to try to ask myself, what should I do? What are my priorities? And if my priorities aren't there, I'm going to ask you in my own words. And then I'm going to get to the third part of Shemona Esrei, and I'm going to admit that I need you, that I can't do it myself. And this is really what requires every 3 hours to daven the Shemona Esrei. Because it takes me just a couple of minutes to think that I'm in charge again. That's the comparison of Shabbos. The godless of Shabbos is to recognize that I don't have to do it myself. You know, it's generally understood that when you take 3 steps forward, you're walking into God's office, right? Now, if you think about it, it's a little absurd. Because as one great rabbi once said, Hashem is here, Hashem is there, Hashem is truly everywhere. It's almost heretical to like take 3 steps forward, because like he wasn't back here. So now, over here, I'm okay. Now, why do we do this? We do this to make ourselves feel like we're coming into the king's office. When we take 3 steps back on both sides, let me suggest that it's not that we're leaving his office. It's that he comes with us. When we vow and take 3 steps back, we should feel like he's actually a part of our lives a little more than he was 3 minutes ago. And you know what? I don't have to get it all done by myself because he's there and he is going to help me. What can start out as feeling very down and very lowly and very depressed because I need him for everything, you know what? He's very, very good at what he does. Imagine if when we took 3 steps back, we imagined that he was coming with us instead of just leaving him there in the office. Don't worry. Within a couple of minutes, within 10 minutes, within 15 minutes, we'll lose him again. We'll have to go back at Mincha, and then we'll have to go back at Meyer to find him. Wouldn't it be nice if for a couple of minutes we felt his presence there? Let me share one last thought. All of this is not to say that tefillah isn't valuable, even if we just go through the motions. I want to make that really clear. It says at the end of our Shemona Esrei, we say, Shema Koleinu Hashem Elokeinu. Right here are voices. The Shalah is a beautiful thing. The Shalah HaKadosh says, why is it Shema Koleinu? Because even if we didn't do anything but mouth the words, that does have value too. As a shul rabbi, I always used to struggle like everybody else. There's talking in shul, there's this, there's that. And talking is really, it's a waste of time. It's really not the time for it. But when people would say to me, you know, it's better the person didn't come to shul at all. And people say that. I would always say, you know, there are a lot of Jews out there. And they didn't come to shul on Saturday morning. They're out doing other stuff. And this person took off time to come and to stand here. And that's valuable too. So as much as we need to work on our tefillah, and tefillah is called avoda also because it takes work to make it meaningful, don't ever imagine that it's not meaningful to just come, to just be here, to just say the words. That too is a tremendous value. And you have to keep doing it. And young men in the room, tefillah is something that requires work to make it meaningful. It can be a tremendous part of your day, a tremendous part of your life, but it takes a lot of practice. And even on days when you don't know if you want to do it, if you don't feel like it, going through the motions is of tremendous value. And the last thing I'll say is that it pays to go through those motions until the very end. One thing that is in all of our control, and I get up here, I speak so often on tefillah. I also have a lot of days where I just don't know what I said, what I did. It's very hard. And I try to remind myself of one of the things that I try to teach. Today we went over lots of different kinds of things to think about that might make ours. Try to get one of them a day to make your tefillah a little more meaningful. But it is in our control, even if we can't daven well, to come to a minyan and to stay until the very end. Staying until the very end is one of the big problems of our generation, right? We see this, everybody's sort of tailing off. Children are coming off, people are heading out, they're at the door, I don't know. It's not in our power to daven well, but it is in our power to daven until the end. And the way that we stay, as everybody's getting up to leave, the way that we stay says a lot about the experience itself. And that is totally in our control. And I'll admit that that was something that I too struggled with for many, many years. Busy guy, come on, I gotta go. It's just a lane. Several years ago, our community was rocked by the massacre in Arnof of some every Jew is holy, but some obviously very, very holy Jews who were in the middle of tefillah, one of which was the brother of our Rosh Yeshiva, Meir Tversky. And I tried to figure out how am I personally going to respond? What am I going to do when 4 people are killed during davening? Literally wearing their tefillin. And Many of you remember the images of the blood on the floor and the tefillin and people wrapped in tefillin. And I said to myself one thing: if there's anything that those 4 people that were killed would want, it was to stay in shul that day. It was to make it to the end of davening. And they were killed, and they weren't even allowed to finish the davening. And it got me to think of so many generations of Jews who would have loved to have had a few minutes to daven and were quickly running and taking off their tefillin so that no one would come in and shoot them or stab them for what they were doing. Even if davening well is not in our power, and even if I'm a late sleeper sometimes, getting there exactly on time, we at least think is not always in our power. Staying till the end is a very powerful message. I've wanted many, many times in the last 2 years to leave shul early to get on with what I thought was more important. And I told myself, I just can't. I can't do it. I can't leave before the end. So we need to work on our tefillah. And there are many strategies, and I encourage you to spend time, not during tefillah, but before tefillah. It can be a delight. It can be the Shabbos every day. But always remember that your tefillos are important to the Ribono Shel Olam, that He listens to us, that He listens to our voices, even when our hearts are not into it. And that simply by coming and staying till the very end, and leaving our tefillin on, and just staying there, He sent a very, very powerful message about a desire to get closer to Hashem. I wish you all much.